Welcome to Season 10 of the Notes from the Pen podcast. I'm here with Ladies Wear, mainly because I have to be here with someone for them to record it, right? Because I can't just sit here. I don't have a recording device myself. So really, he's here because he has to be, right? And he's feeling, what's up, ladies? Are you all right?
Yeah, man, just got my drinking some extra creamer in it, living life.
Brilliant. So anyways, I figured, I don't know, this is the first time we've done an actual plotted, planned out season, and I don't know how it goes, but I feel like there has to be some sort of intro into it. So that's what this is. Everyone take a knee, all the Pebbles, the viewers, no matter where you're at, what time zone, what's your sexual preference, gender, race, ethnicity, religious belief, or mental psychosis is, we are fucking glad to have you. There has been quite a disruption, as everyone's been following this soap opera of an experiment knows. We've lost people, gained people, shit has shifted and changed. And along the way, for a couple reasons, I figured, out of necessity, but also out of strategic preference and plot and planning too, is that we had to change the format a little bit. The captain was great at a lot of things, man, and one of them was holding it together just barely, last minute editing and all that stuff. But he learned to do that stuff, and he was, the point person for interaction and all that stuff. And to be honest, up until I was telling you earlier, up until about a week ago, almost exactly a week ago, I was really treading water and just doing my best to keep the ship from sinking. Like pull Greg, cousin Greg in here, ladies we're in here, the 22-year-old here, and do these things just to keep it going. Keep treading water, keep it moving. But it's been a huge, it's been the toughest time since I've been in prison. Aside from like the emotional shit when I first came down because of everything that happened. But this has been the most trying time, and it's not just the troubles with the show, it's with the place I'm at and COVID and the lockdown and the rules here and the monotony and the drudgery and all that stuff like layered on top of one another has been the lowest point since coming to prison. And the best thing that has happened has been the connection with the viewers, the Pebbles, and this show, this expression, this voice, this outlet. This thing serves so many purposes. And the idea that this thing was going to go away or had taken a cannonball in the side or whatever metaphor you want to use was really, it took a toll on me that I wasn't really prepared for, and I kind of underestimated. And so, that being said, there was just a time just out of necessity where it's like, look, we definitely can't do 2 episodes a week, 2 full-length episodes a week. We're having trouble with one. And one thing I will never do, I won't sacrifice quality. If we're going to do a shitty show, aside from treading water until we figure it out, if we're going to do a subpar show, I'd just almost rather not do it. That's just the way I am, and call it dumb or whatever you want to call it, but that's just the way it is. So, I had been getting a couple opinions from people and breaking it down to a seasonal podcast, like I guess plenty of people do out there, made so much more sense. And, I said, well, we got to continue doing the Monday ones. So the Monday ones with Doug or, whoever it's going to be. But the Monday episodes, the 15-minute ones, are always going to be coming out. And then we'll do 3-month, 12 episodes, 1 a week of the long-form one, with tons of bonus stuff on Patreon once we got that up. So because of necessity, we simply couldn't do all these episodes and still have them coherent and thought out and well-structured. And then along with that came me wanting to go to college while I'm here. I've rethought some of that stuff, and I really want to once they bring back in-person learning, which they haven't done yet. So all these things came together to where, okay, we need a season. So that's what we're doing. We're doing a season. This is season tin, which I guess is probably only in technical terms. But, yeah, so we were able to put together these really thought-out, cohesive, quality-wise, old school, if not exceeding, episodes that, last week is when it really hit me that this thing with Cousin Greg, especially him, like really evolving and this dynamic we're building and this comfort level is the first time since the captain left where I'm not worried anymore about where it's going. It's the first time I have real confidence, and not just confidence, excitement into where this shit's going and what we can do and the momentum like we're starting to build. And we released a couple throwaway episodes early on Patreon. You listened to them, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you would agree, Greg's doing his thing, and the vibe is on track now. And what I tell you, I said, if you like those, wait till you hear the shit we got in the pipeline right now. The stuff that we're covering. It's like old school chaotic shit happening. It's just a vintage and quality level of the way NFTP was, and now it's just going forward. So that's it. I just wanted to do a little intro because I don't know. We've never done these seasons, and I just wanted to say all the pebbles out there that shot me JPays or Twitter or reached out and just showed love and like that, I'm telling you guys, that's the stuff. I was on the verge several times of calling it and just being like, I'm done with this stuff. It's just too much. I can't fucking do it. And those little JPays, Ghost Gerbil, Ashely Bell, JD, like there's so many fucking people that just carried, like just, I'm telling you, just gave me just enough to keep doing this when I wanted to, skill it. When I wanted to just hang it up and be done with it. And so I also wanted to take this time in the intro to say this thing has always been a community thing. It's always been an experiment and connection, and the show never needed it more than these last couple months. And, we got something for you. It's full fucking steam ahead now, and I think you're going to like what's coming up. So without further ado, get your goddamn flippers on because we're setting sail. Well,
yeah, I'm really excited about season 10. I like the direction it's going.
Oh, my God. Hold on. Did you hear that? When you go back, listen, I was like just wrapping up. This is why I have them on. I was just wrapping it up. And I go, welcome to season 10, bitch. But right as I said, you go, and I like holy shit. Without further ado, here it is. Welcome to season 10, bitch.
All subject matter in the preceding podcast is entirely alleged and not admissible in a court of law. A recklessly minimal effort has been taken to change the names and details of any guilty parties. And just in case you rat bastards get any ideas, the hosts of this podcast are notorious and well-documented liars with no legally admissible credibility. This is Mama C, and you're listening to Notes from the Pen podcast. Welcome to prison, bitch.
Greetings from the prison industrial complex. You know what show you're listening to, and you know who I am. But today, I have Cousin Greg with me, and he has managed to break free of the ball gag and the restraints. I don't know if I picture like if you have duct tape around your wrist or like your hand when you're a kid, like when you're playing with duct tape, there would be like that little ring of like still sticky stuff around like where the edges were. I imagine you have some of that going on that, you don't fully clean off by the time you get to work or here. And so today I got one of my favorite people on this planet, Cousin Greg. What's up?
Good morning. What's going on? Yes, I actually just gnawed off my wrist. So that's what I did this morning.
Yeah. And like this isn't like hyperbole. Like we spoke yesterday, but it's usually like shot in the dark to call and like nothing. And then I'll get like a guilt-ridden JP like, hey man, I'm sorry. whatever. And I'm like, ooh, I hope he doesn't get whipped for like sending that. Like I imagine one of these days getting a JP that's like, hey, and then just a bunch of periods where like your unconscious head fell on the keyboard. and then we end up catching up and it's like, No time has passed at all. It's all good.
Absolutely.
So what are we doing now? You were at a cul-de-sac last time. Where are you now?
Yeah, let's set it up a little bit. So I'm in my car, as usual. I got the studio going here. The mixer's on my lap. Got the phone on the little holster. And you're hearing these sounds through a microphone console of the car. And I'm in a parking lot in a park. It's like a nature scene up here in North Jersey. It's a park, actually. I grew up in this town here. And I'm just kind of staring off into kind of a lot of trees and woods. And I'm looking at a charcoal grill and a picnic table. And I'm the only car around. So I got the window cracked a little bit. It's a nice humid day. I'm ready.
Yeah, it's nice here. I hope it's nice there. It's good to have you. See, you're both ducking. You're like double duck, right? Like, so like if you're skipping out on school, that's one thing. But if you're skipping out on school, well, I don't know what the analogy would be, but like double time, which makes me appreciate your presence even more. And I get to take all these passive-aggressive shots at you, right, before we get the show going. So listen, today I really wanted to talk to you because there's like been something on my mind that kind of, these like realizations come, and I think you've been sober longer than I have, and
sure.
You're also getting older, and so some of these things, like I say, blend, and you don't know which is which, if it's because you're getting older or sober or a combination of the two. But I had this let me start out with this question. How long, if you had a choice, if you could just type it into a damn computer or write it down on a magical piece of paper and it came true, how long do you want to live?
That's well, okay, I could definitely say I want to be, it's hard to assign a number to it, but if I must, I definitely have to go at least 70 plus. Let me go with 80.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah, the number.
Because you didn't even ask the right questions, right? So first of all, this is why you can't do like those like hypotheticals with someone like me, because I'm annoying like this. Yeah. I'll go, all right, well, let's break down the particulars. What quality of life do we have here? You know what I mean? Am I 150 and I can't get out of bed and I'm pissing blood and stuff? Or is it like I'm Jack LaLanne? No one will get that reference. It's just, Jesus Christ.
So I need to be, you hit it perfectly. I need to know what quality of life I'm going to have. Now, if I have
You're frozen right now. Physically. You're frozen right now. Where you're at, how long do you want to live?
I'm frozen right now? You mean you mean when I'm unfrozen, I'm like this?
No. Meaning you don't age from today forward. You don't get sick until everything biologically is on pause until you snap your fingers or you reach the date you were talking about, at which point I'd imagine you just like age, however many years instantly and like crumble into a very painful pile of dust with like a few teeth scattered. Whatever, what remaining teeth you have left. So, that being said, how long would you want to live?
Okay. Well, considering in the Asian factor, as you and I both know, we look great, and then boom, we just shrivel into a prune. That's how it goes. There's no progression. It's
not.
We do hold the same way you can tell a tree's age by the rings on the trunk, if you will. We do hold some aging clues in the eyes, around the eyes, eyelid area. Right? Okay, but back to the question and the answer. Frozen today, age a bunch. I don't know. I think I'm going to stick with my original answer of 80 because I don't want to live too long. And just be some decrepit, but I also don't want to die young. I do want to see my kids grow, and I feel like my dad's 80 or 81, and I want him to be around for a long, long time, but he's lived a nice long life, so I'm going to stick with my dad's age. He's lived a life.
Great dad, but there's
been great knowing you.
To check. At some point, so how long are we going to sit at this table, Pops? Is basically
right.
Like you're saying, you don't want him to go, but if he did, no harm, no foul. He's done enough, is what you're saying. No, this is like the root of my question, which surprises me that being frozen biologically where you're at now, that you would only choose to, you'd be about halfway done, a little less than halfway done.
A little less.
Which surprises me. I think most people would probably want to live forever. And then, so you say 80 years. Is there any goals? So, like, what? It is not really going to work on you because you basically chose the most boring answer ever, which is, I would like to live the average age people live of my species. You're like, I would like to die. What's the rolling average? 78 for a man or whatever? It's fine if that's your answer. Why is that your answer, though?
Well, I mean, kind of because, I don't want to live too long because I do have a fear of being, like, around forever, not forever, but for a long time, and just being just kind of this invisible, kind of just decrepit old guy.
But you wouldn't be old in this scenario. You would be biologically frozen. You know what I mean? You would look the same way you look right now. If you said 200 years old on 100, when you were 199, you look just like you look now. So
I guess I could stretch it. Because my first thought was,
I'm not trying to pitch you on anything, right? Like, I'm not trying to sell you. I genuinely would like to know, because I feel like my initial, like, if you would have asked me this different phases of my life, I would have said different things. If you would have asked me, okay, so I lived most of my life, and I sincerely mean from, like, my first, like, existential despair, like 12, 13 years old. Now, as the viewers know, maybe this goes back to Saving a Princess, or who knows where some of these, like, deep, depressive mental health issues come from. But I really did live my life with the assumption that, like, there was always a part of me that was afraid of dying, but also, like, what a relief that's going to be. You know what I mean? Like, what a God. I used to tell people, I remember this girl, Shannon, was, like, one of the first girls that I had that had let me stick my wiener in her more than, like, once. I think I had slept with 2 girls at the time, and it was no, like, monumental affair, right? So I remember talking to her on the phone. I must have been, like, 16, 17. I don't know. I was smoking a Newport out back secretly because, the parents couldn't know it was at night. And I was talking to her on the old wireless house phone. And I remember saying, like, I'm going to die before I'm, like, 20, 24 or 25. I remember being like Tupac. Like, I won't live long. And I idolized Tupac. And I really had this feeling, like, this, like, romanticism of, like, dying young, and thought that I would, but also kind of feared it. And I thought it was, like, I thought it was an edgy, cool thing to say, and to kind of express, like, I don't give a fuck, which I was just in pain, and that's all fun and games to, like, live that way until, like, you wake up one day and you don't. You're older now, And so back in the day, I would have said, like, fuck, I don't want to live past 30. I used to say that frequently. I don't want to live past 30. I want to go out, like, guns blazing, just, like, at the peak, like, still strong.
G.G. Allen.
I don't know. Maybe that's the G.G. Allen quote. I want to go when my star's still on the rise, and I still have a lot of energy to take over into this next life, is kind of what he was saying. But then I came to prison and found some clarity and some understanding, and kind of, like, discovered myself and, like, what, like, life means and what any of this stuff means to me, right? And through meditation, I remember having this realization about death. And I think in the death episode we talked about this, but one of my realizations was, we're all trying to, like, live forever, and what a mistake that might be if this is just some sort of gauntlet, a physical existence in one life or 100 lives, however many it is. This is just some sort of, like, processing factory or rite of passage to some sort of other existence, like, far beyond, far more fulfilling, comprehensive, whatever, or some version of heaven, right? Like, how our short-sightedness of reaching immortality could ironically cheat us from, like, the real purpose of life, which is to die and then either be reborn as everything and everyone on the planet and so realize you're one thing, or go to this, enlightened phase or whatever, right? So then I had that realization where I was like, well, I don't want to live forever. And then now I've reached a third phase.
Okay.
Kind of recently. And it's back kind of like in the other direction, where I think, okay, so a motivating factor of my life has been this existential FOMO, fear of missing out, and like a deeper level than just like, ooh, what was going on Friday night, even though it includes that. Mm-hmm. And that is, there's this, okay, so prison gives you the opportunity to like really delve into a lot of...
You have 1 minute remaining.
that you might not have time for otherwise. And in that, you discover some really dope shit. And my life's been filled with this, like discovering certain music or authors or bands or movies or whatever. Mm-hmm. Realizing this, you're like, oh, I can't believe I had a life before I knew there was a Fight Club. Hold on. I'm going to hit you back. This is a good cutoff point. And,
all right.
All right.
Thank you for using GTL.
All right. So life has all these, if you're paying attention, life has all these little, unexpected little gems or Easter eggs that are just like beautiful and amazing, like almost specifically designed for you in a way, or in line with, like, it just seemed to be made for you, right? Like all the things, the reason I like Fight Club is my favorite movie is it encapsulated so many feelings, thoughts, and ideas I had at a certain, like, really pivotal phase of my life, right? And it's like the idea that there's this, oh man, like occasionally you'll hear a song, read a book, or watch a movie that you never knew was out there, and then when you do, you go, oh my God, like how did I not know this thing? Who is this director? Who is this music? And then you delve like deeply into that and realize like, okay, life's a little bit better knowing about this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm fine.
And so the idea that there's one of the things that motivates me, just like from micro to macro, is the idea that there's these wonderful things that would be my favorite fill-in-the-blank movie, book, person, whatever, that I just haven't discovered yet. And the idea that I haven't, the thought that it's out there and I don't know about it, like drives me mad, right? And it's hard because you're like, you don't search for what's the thing, what's the musician I don't know about that's amazing. You can't search that. It's almost like the universe has to like deliver it to you in some sort of weird way. You can do your best to search it out, but it's not until you meet someone and they go, oh, you've never heard of Charles Bukowski? And you're like, who? And then you go read Bukowski and you're like, oh, this is me. Like this guy is part of me. Like, and there's all kinds. So, and then, some of these things that like leads you down this path of, that Fight Club led me to a bunch of different things, but one of them was Chuck Palahniuk. He's one of my favorite authors ever. And then there's this whole universe he created, and like all these different things that he's written. And then you get into that and you realize like, oh, there's like these subcultures that are beautiful, self-sustaining, complex, niche, weird, interesting things that in order to even know they're there, you have to somehow stumble upon or be given secret access to through, some sort of synchronicity, someone telling you, or you finding on a rabbit hole on the internet, you finding it. But in order to like fully understand and appreciate these subcultures, you have to there is no like, oh yeah, I saw the trailer for Fight Club, that was cool. You're like, no, watch the movie. Right. Then learn about David Fincher, the director, and then the author, and then he wrote this book, check this out, and and then
you have to experience.
I guess, yes. So the study and experience, and one of the realizations I have now is I keep like discovering things like this throughout life, and especially since I've awakened, since I've been in prison, and kind of am taking life as it comes and learning to appreciate and be grateful. I find all these things, and I go, this, in order to fully know these things and experience them and appreciate them, you have to become pretty deeply immersed in them to really appreciate them, right? And that takes time, and the idea that life is so short and I'm going to miss out on so much of this stuff gives me like a reason to be like, no, I would like to live to be 1,000. And I don't know if a thousandth answer. Like you'd have to come back to me at 1,000, right? And not just so like I kind of led with that because I wanted to know first of all how old you would like to live and why. Because a lot of people would be like, oh, I'd like to live forever, and then you go, why? Like for what? And maybe they'd have an answer, but I suspect that a lot of people would go, I don't know, because I'm afraid of death.
Yeah.
I'm not so afraid of death. In like on a scale, like sure we all are afraid of the unknown, and yeah, like I don't want to die anymore, you know. And so I have a healthy fear of it, but I'm not like terrified. I accept it as a part of life, and who knows? I'm very interested to see what happens afterwards, right? But then there's now I have a motivating factor that is a real FOMO of like there's so much that I want to learn, and there's an experience, and there's so little time.
Yes, but in this life, though, no matter how long it is, I'm laughing at my 80 now, but 80, 1,000, you know, it's going to be impossible. 80. It's going to be impossible to. At some point, we're always going to have to zero down and make choices and figure out, you know, what we want to dedicate our time to.
Because
impossible,
it's so limited, though.
Right, because it's a finite amount of time. You're always going to have to, and I mean, you can change the scale whether or not you're going to live for 40 years, 80 years, 1,000 years, but we're always going to have to kind of, you know, make those choices.
Right, but I really believe, like I said, I wouldn't want to live forever, but I really believe that there would be a time. Who knows? Maybe it would come after 120 years, or I'd just be sick of everything. You know what I mean? And I'd be like, yeah, I've done enough. But you know, there's definitely, I could see a time where I go, okay, I got a deep, like, one of the things that made me really, like, sit down and think about this was I've been debating and arguing with people who, for the most part, it's usually about politics or whatever it is, but I realize, like, how many people I'm speaking to, in order to even have the debate, I have to almost educate them on their own perspective, like the details of it. You know, I'm like, well, you're kind of arguing for fiscal conservatism, which the argument is, like, they don't even know the definition of their own thing because everything's based so much on emotion and shit and, like, people following people that they get a good vibe from or whatever.
Yeah.
And it made me realize that I was a hypocrite in a lot of ways because I was like, I don't really understand economics. It's like this huge complex thing, right? So then I mentioned a couple of things. You know, an amazing, lovely viewer sent me a Henry George book, British economist, and then someone else sent me one on John Maynard Keynes, who's a famous British economist who kind of like revolutionized economics. And this is like during World War I and II and stuff like that. And so in learning it, and something as disgusting and boring and just mundane seeming as economics, I'm learning stuff, and I'm going, oh, this is fascinating. And then during it, I go like, oh yeah, without coming to prison, would have never had the chance. And so it made me go, man, there's so much out there, and this is knowledge and experience is the reason for almost somewhat justifiable desire. No, a completely justifiable desire to live longer. Yeah. And then it made me go like, well, if you do want to live longer, you should have a reason, right? Like why? Mm-hmm. And then it made me curious to what the viewers out there would say, how long they would want to live. And then once they had an answer, what for?
Why? Yeah.
Like find a reason, right? Everyone should find their reason for like, and then once you find your reason, now you have a direction instead of just listing through life like I was.
Right.
You know? And I just was curious to what you thought. Is there anything that you want to, because, okay, so before I ask you this, I wrote down a kind of list of like the many lives of Bobby C throughout the years, like all the little things that I've delved into deep enough to be considered that thing, right? Like a skater. Like I went to skate competitions, was sponsored by, like halfway sponsored by Spectrum Surf Shop back in the day when they first opened their skate. They used to make skate videos with Drew Tape, rest in peace, and Matt, and a bunch of people watch skate videos all the time. You know, I've broken over 40 decks. You know what I'm saying? Like I did that long enough when I was like 15 to be considered a skater. And when I took this Myers-Briggs personality test in prison, it's this comprehensive personality test, and it kind of pointed that out and said, yeah, like your type of personalities like to delve into things until you get like a pretty, not expert level, but good understanding, and then move on to the next thing. And I was like, holy shit, that's what I do. And they forced me to like sit down. And when I was like preparing this, I was like just doing a little list. Okay, so skater, surfer, martial artist, stoner. Mm-hmm. So now all of these things that I'm mentioning are things that like you could ask me like in depth. Yeah. Like you could be like, oh, you're a stoner. What's your favorite bong? And I'd be like, well, Jerome Baker was my favorite.
Yeah.
You know, there's graphics and like where you could not just a thing where like, yeah, I smoked weed, like fully into like the culture, right? And so addict, me and you were pros at that. MMA, tattoo artist, rapper, college student, punk, like in the punk scene, thugged out like gangster rap shit. A cook, a carpenter. I did the father thing, the family man thing. Writer, podcaster now. Inmate. You know, I've lived all these like full on.
Oh my God.
Immersed like, and that's just like a small protester.
Yeah. No, I'm just chuckling real quick. Not to interrupt. I'm just chuckling real quick because as you're saying it, like they're really connecting because we've known each other a long time, and I'm like, yeah, he's right. Yes. Like when you say these aren't just passing glances, like these are like real. Like I love what you're saying. Yeah. Go ahead.
So I had that. I was lucky in that way to experience a bunch of shit. But prison sits you on your ass, and you can't live through experience except the inmate thing. Like I'm learning that, and the podcast thing, and the writer thing. So you can, to a certain extent, experience these different subcultures and subgenres and little niches of groupings. But for a lot of it, like economics, you have to. There's the study of, and it's not the same. It's like one layer removed. Yeah. So. You know, I'm kind of limited. So I wanted to, like, ask you, let's say your answer is 80 years and you have however many years left. What do you want to do? Like, is there anything, if anything, that you want to accomplish or do on this theme park of life? You know, with 80 years, you can only visit so many rides. You're not going to hit the whole park. Like, are there some, like, must-haves? Like rides that you want to hit? I want to ride them all. That's why I want to live to be 1,000 now. And I used to be the guy who was like, I want to go home. Like, I want to leave. This theme park sucks. And you know, so, and now that
go ahead. You know, I hear what you're saying. Like you simply would like more time so that you can continue to immerse yourself in more things, like educate yourself about certain things. There's a lot to know, a lot to experience, a lot to learn. You just want more time to do that. I totally, you know,
But in a more like comprehensive, not just, I know you're not saying this, not just like I want to learn this, but like this really is like this physical existence. I don't know if we get multiple lives or this is the only one, but this is like, we kind of forget in the like humdrum of like the shit we're supposed to be doing, right? Like working and having kids, whatever it is, right? But those are all rides in the theme park too, you know, being a dad, and they're amazing parts of it. But this is some sort of physical, with space-time, a physical theme park, right? And I think we can forget that. And I just want to ride it all. Like now, I want to go get the elephant ears and go get the candied almonds and then run over here and take a piss real quick and then go to the beer garden and then go ride fucking Magic King. You know what I mean? Like I want to do it all, and I can tell that the sun's going down on the theme park, and I'm like, it ain't gonna last forever, bud. And it like that. So I like, is there anything you want to accomplish?
Yeah,
go ahead. I cut you off.
No. There definitely are, and you know what it's hard is like I find myself kind of trying to separate like the technical details of reality from like these like whimsical, you know what I mean, like fantasy dreams of which I'd want to, because it's hard because I'll try to unravel it. They're kind of connected. So it's like, all right, I would love to have the opportunity in every aspect of that, of what that means, to dedicate myself to like a craft that has to do with like comedy writing or something to do with like the arts, as terrible as that sounds, but you know what I'm saying, like
a creative endeavor.
Yes, a creative endeavor, right. And so that itself is an answer. Okay, there that is. But it's hard to think about that. Like the things that are difficult about that are, in order to do that, just fundamentally would need time. And the things that occupy my time are things that I need to do, like working, a job, you know what I mean? And why do I need to do that? Because I got bills.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Because you came to the theme park with a family.
Yes, exactly. So I can't just, fast pass it and spend the money on me and hit up the top. We got to plan out where we're going to stop and change the baby and do this and do that. Right. So, but to answer to answer the question, like simply without all the mess, love to learn how to be, love to learn in great detail what it means to write comedy.
Beautiful.
There's one.
Beautiful, legit answer.
Yeah.
Let me hit you back.
All right, cool.
Beautiful. That's completely doable, by the way. You know what I mean? On mine, so like when I always take notes on the back of like my little blank call outs because they're basically just saying that I don't get to do anything today officially. And on it, I had like, I wanted to ask you what like you wanted to do and find out also how like what your answers were, like how long you would want to live. And, I hope the viewers know that this question applies to them. This isn't, I wish I could talk to all of you out there and ask you and nerd it up about this stuff with you. And this isn't, I've sat and thought about it, which is what led to me to do this. But this isn't like, I'm not coming to this with, under the assumption that like, I'm even right about what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Or anything like that. I thought about it a little more, and by a little more, I mean like the last 24 hours, not like months or whatever. And but yeah, the stand-up thing is kind of, I mean, doesn't really surprise. It doesn't really surprise me to hear you say that. I think it would have surprised me back in the day when we were first met.
Yeah.
You are a person who also had former lives. As we all have, right? Some more than others, though. Like you.
Yeah, but you and I picked lanes, and we dove all the way in. We're a little different in that.
Well, you experienced. It's like those little things I listed off. I got into it and experienced just enough not to turn my whole life into it, meaning like the rest of my life, but enough to be like, I think I know what it would be like to be a pro skater. Not that I was that good, but I became familiar enough with each one of those things where I could pretty reliably like imagine most of it. Like, I could see what that would be like, who you would be involved with, what promotions, what sponsorship would look like, what competition, you know what I mean? Like what, and so you for sure did that with music, like the rock star lifestyle. Like you did enough to where you were like at the table with some like labels and had a following, had some stuff on the radio to where you could go, I could see what that would be like.
Yeah, I wanted it so bad. Yeah, I committed everything I had to it. That I know.
And you failed.
And I failed.
We all failed. No, you didn't. I mean, I will say this, and I've touched on it before.
That's failure.
You're way better. Like this, Greg, way better.
Mm-hmm. I know, absolutely.
Way better than we were. You know what I mean?
It took a long time for me to find peace with that, to be quite frank. It took a number of years to kind of reconcile that person and that life to something else. I had a hard time identifying myself as, I was lost for a long time because of it. So,
what a beautiful and yet necessary like breakdown of that whole, because it was a false idol thing. Not to say you weren't good at music, you didn't love music, but like when you put that idea of being the rock star ahead of the music, if that like comes at it all, like that thing needs to fall apart, right? In a way,
so true.
If you want to make a lot of growth and those painful things of in a lot of ways, that was like your coming to prison moment. Where when I came to prison, I was like, okay, two options. Either figure my brain out and all the issues I've had with addiction and depression, which really was a brain problem, with depression and all that stuff, or die. Because you've you know what I mean? You're at like a crossroads. And that happened to you with the music thing.
For sure.
Right?
I love that terminology you use, come into prison moment. I feel like, that's a universal thing there. It's very applicable. But, you're absolutely right. I mean, talk about, like, real soul-searching. My biggest problem with the music thing was I could not seem to accept that, like, utter domination was not going to be possible because I felt like I was good at it. And this is a good lesson for people that are younger and maybe into something that they're good at and they believe in. Just because you're good at something does not give you the right to just assume, this arrogance and just, you're not better than people. Like you might be, like there's some, like, all right, LeBron James, best basketball player playing right now. There's a dude probably in, I don't know, somewhere in Africa that might be better than him. Yeah, I mean, just universe pan out type shit.
Or will be,
yeah. Like, and the greats, they know that, right? See, I was not in a place where I couldn't know. I was too young, and I was angry and upset all the time because I was like, well, I'm good at this, so I should be the best. And so as a result of that, or I should be famous or something, as a result of that, I lived in this la-la land. And I remember the one thing I'll say is I remember there was a time where I wanted to be famous, so corny, but I wanted to be famous so bad. And it's not just about the fame, it's like a hole in the soul. I thought that
like a recognition.
Yes,
you wanted
exactly.
to be recognized about and reaffirmed by your talent.
Yeah, in order to justify and fill that, like, that hole in the chest. And so I chased that, and
You're about to tell a story about it.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say there was a time where, and this is the saddest thing, I wanted that so bad. I just wanted to be, affirmed by everybody else in the world, that at one point I just started to toy around with the idea of, like, this worldview that it just was. And I was like, what? You see, like, I was so crazy that I was like, well, maybe when you make it, you just make it. And maybe this is it. I was like, wait. You don't have money. I was like, wait. But there's some things that you don't have money.
Yeah, some telltale signs that you've made it.
Yeah, you're not like...
You're driving a Cavalier.
Yeah. I was like, exactly. Yeah, thank you for remembering the exact car model, too. 99 Cavalier. And just think, that's so fucking crazy. I was a lunatic.
I didn't know. I was like giggling because I know when you get that voice, I'm like, oh, he's about to like lay something.
Yeah. Well, I think I had settled down to this idea of better to rule in a small little pond, whatever the expression is. I wanted the whole thing, but I was like, well, I'll just rule in this little pond. Meanwhile, we're in like Florida, we're in swamp sticks, sometimes hood Florida. And I'm like, all right, this is cool. I could go to this place and get a free meal, and that girl kind of liked me. I made it.
Yeah, that's fucking hilarious. That instead of like reaching the heights, you convinced yourself that those were the heights. You're like, yeah, this is it. This is it, right? Like the Beatles, they were driving around, whatever the version, a Yugo?
Yeah. But I would love to hear what you have to say, because I think I can say this because we know each other well. I think you could relate to that, because in our small world too, you were also big fish, little pond. Yeah.
Yeah. I had this thing going where I can very much relate to the fame was only like a means to an end, and that end was recognition of your abilities, right? And sometimes for me, I've said this before, it was enough, and people would say it disparagingly, but it didn't matter to me. They don't know. I was taking it as a compliment. And I remember Pat's mom, who, like, this family's a bit judgy, some of them, and they're like a little snooty with no real right to be. We all lived in the same neighborhood. you know what I mean? And was like had a brief, like 30, maybe a couple minute heart to heart, where old fucking Mama Bear says, Bobby, you can be anything if you just applied yourself. And she meant, and other people have said that in the past, but I remember that one really stuck with me because she didn't really ever do it. She was like very, I didn't even think any of us were on her radar any more than just like, oh yeah, that's my kid's friends. I know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it really stuck with me. And in a weird, perverse, like super unhealthy way, to me, I was like, that's enough for me. You know what I mean? Like, as long as someone knows that I'm special, then that's it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As long as you know it, I don't ever have to. What's the point in proving it if the whole point of proving it is so people know it? And so what's the point if a couple people already can see that? But I was like, special for what? Like, for what?
Right.
Like, what was the thing because like you're saying, you're like kind of a big fish in a small, so I can totally relate to that. to that experience. And you know, we've dabbled in different things, and being in prison, you know, it's like the clock seems to be running in a way that like you can't do anything in prison, which ironically I've done more meaningful stuff
than most people.
Just than me. Than I did all that the other time being a big fish in a small pond. Now I'm like the smallest fish like ever in a very large pond full of like magnanimous, talented, brilliant people. And you know, I'm only in the pond because of the, you know, certain other people in the pond and the viewers and Pebbles and you and help from, you know, all kinds of other people. And
Bobby, go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm going to make a point.
No.
I'm going to say this though. In a bigger sense though, you have, I stick to it. You have done greater things in there, and I'll explain this, than most people. Sticking to that. And what I mean by that is you hit it right on the head with doing certain things to claim validation from others, right? And there's a correlation between how we feel about ourselves in that pursuit. But what you've done there is you found yourself. You found peace within yourself, and you have essentially not solved, because I think it's an ongoing, indefinite process, but you've found yourself. Well, let me just say it for the lack of a better term. You've kind of solved that hole in the in the soul. That sounds, but just stay with me there. So you've done that, and so as a result of that, you have this type. You have grown. So you've grown from that person, and I think in that process, in this like current destination, that's what lends to all this like inspiration to want to be around and learn more. Although you're there physically, you're enjoying life. Is that am I out of line to say that? Or
I guess you're right, and I hate when you get douchey like that, and I know the captain's out there hating it even more. But I accept it. You're right about that stuff, and I should probably, if there's a riddle to figure out, it should be being more okay with admitting that I'm not a complete loser, or at least entertaining the idea. But yeah, sure. That, I guess, that doesn't take too much digging to realize that that's kind of what this is, like a more in-depth way of saying, hey, like not only do I not want to kill myself, that there are beautiful things. This is not such a shitty amusement park as I thought, and I'm realizing it at a time where I don't think I'm not going to be able to make all the stops. And that's okay, because realizing it at all is better than, sleeping in the parking lot, you know what I mean, or whatever the version is. But it does make me have to pick now which rides I want to hit. And so, I was thinking what rides I want to hit on the way out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when I get out, stand-up is for sure my thing. That is,
awesome.
I started dabbling in it. I probably did 10 sets altogether. I was doing open mics and traveling places and starting to dabble in a thing that I kind of realized later, and I think maybe might be the only way for me to realize that, this is always been the thing I should have been doing. And hearing that from you as an outsider, and Andrew and other people from the past, makes me go hey, assholes, why didn't if you guys thought this the whole time, why didn't anyone say that stuff? And they're not saying oh, you needed to, but Andrew would say oh, you always had that vibe about you know what I mean? You were built for that type of thing.
You were, yeah.
Was
well, I think at the time it was hard for us to kind of concentrate it and know exactly oh, this is what Bobby should do. It's kind of thinking about it now. It's oh shit, you were made for that, because I fully support and believe in you.
You have 1 minute remaining.
I think you'd be great at it.
All right, let me hit you back and let's wrap this up. Because I'd also, before I go out, I'd like to see what it's like to be a full-on stand-up, get that full experience. To also like to see what it's like to be a millionaire, or and not in some comical way, but really, you'd like to feel what that's like. you know, have like $1 million and be like, oh, I'm not worried about money, and there are all. I just like that's. I want to visit that ride before I leave and get just a feel for it. Not to live on that ride, but I want to do like a motivational speaker. Who knows? Maybe I'll do the husband thing, which I really don't know. But let me get you back. Let's wrap this up before they.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right. Anything you wanna wrap it up with?
That I could no. I was going to try to land a joke, but I jumped off that. Yeah, better to not.
And we're going to work on some of that comedy writing shit because I had to learn to do some of that shit to write the pilot episodes and some of that stuff. Yeah. And that's kind of one of the things. The comedy thing is one of the things that we reconnected with because you went and read the Comedians in Prison thing, and you're like, oh shit. And I didn't really know that was something I didn't know about you. It doesn't surprise me, but I didn't know that you were into comedy because back then,
it's something that came on over time. Yeah. And then when I read your piece, I was like, holy shit, this is good because I really like comedy, and I could tell that I could tell that you were really just on the ball. It was funny as hell. That was the most important thing. But it was super accurate.
Yeah, it's a whole. For those who don't know, go to nosefromthepen.com. It's a whole list of how comedians in 280 characters would fare in prison. It's probably 120 or 130 at list. I keep adding. If you've got any advice, go ahead and or like suggestions, go ahead and drop them to me. And I want to just wrap up with this because they're about to probably close this yard at any time and boot us out without us getting a proper outro. Just want to say, I guess. For those of you younger than me, I'm like 22, so pretty much no one. For those of you younger than me, don't wait so long to figure out what ride you want to hit on this thing, and don't like let everyone else tell you that the millionaire ride is the thing because everyone's in line for that thing, and it's probably not that great. Everyone's saying it's a 4 hour. Most of you won't even get on that ride, and you'll spend the whole time on the theme park waiting in that line, having to piss, doing all that stuff, and you'll end up losing your place and be out of there. So don't wait. And for the people my age or the people older, it's not too late. You know what I mean? Go figure out what rides you want to do. You're a mom or dad or brother. Those things don't always have to. You can reach a point in your life where the kids grow up and go out and not only do you have to fight, you get to find a new identity in a way and figure out what you want to do and so just, my thing would be like, thank God you guys don't have to come to prison to hear some of these realizations that I had to come to prison for. And one of them is figure out what fucking rides you want to do because this isn't, this theme park doesn't stay open forever. Don't get caught scrambling at the last minute, in line for the bathroom when you never even hit any of the stuff you wanted to check out. You know what I mean? So everyone go out there and figure out a couple rides and then go get on them and really feel them when you're on them, and dig in there and experience that shit. Right now I'm on a couple of them. One of them is the incarceration ride. I'll be able to talk about this and tell this and have a perspective on this ride that most people, no one is looking to get on that ride. So sometimes you need to know. You have to talk to someone that's been on that ride to tell you how to fix it and like how to avoid accidents. Theme park and so that's all I wanted to say. And hopefully, when we were talking about those little Easter egg things like Fight Club or whatever that like lead off into this cool little niche thing that you is like yours. You're like, oh, this is a dope little unique thing that's just mine. I realized like this show, this thing we're doing together with the Pebbles and everything. It's just the idea that this could be that for one or two people is like just makes my fucking day.
Yeah.
Someone could find this and be like, damn, this shit's different, and go ahead and spread that around. And so in that vein, we love you, and I can't stress enough how connected we all are and how much this thing is like a community thing. And the captain too, man, I really been thinking about him a lot lately. I have to hit him up. I think it's about that time. But so, visit everyone on Notes from the Pen on Twitter, the website, the podcast. There's going to be some changes coming up that when you're listening to this, they probably would have already happened. But, before I get tased and dragged to the hole and experience a different part of this ride that I don't want to really experience anymore, let me just say on behalf of Cousin Greg, your hopefully favorite convict, and the entire NFTP universe. And for small fish in large ponds and big fish in small ponds everywhere, thank you for listening. We are gone.
We gone.
To learn more about Bobby and prison reform, go to notesfromthepen.com. This has been another Notes from the Pen production.